All right, let's kick this video off. Hey, the first tip I should give you is before you leave to the woods with that camera, inspect it and make sure it works at home. That means put the SD card, put your batteries in, and walk in front of it, and then check out that SD card to make sure everything's set and working the way you expect it to do in the woods. All right, let's talk about also before you leave home, another thing you need to think about, and that's how to mount your camera on a tree. Because you might need special equipment like I do when you come to the field to do that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about the three techniques of mounting cameras to trees. Basically, you have three. You can strap them, you can use a bracket, or you can use a security box. I always use a security box, and I'm going to tell you how and how to really make your security box so hard for anybody to take your camera, to include bears. Let's talk about the advantages of a strap and disadvantages. Straps come with your camera usually. It makes you have the ability to put a camera up on any tree very quickly and also move it very quickly to a different location if you desire to do so. The disadvantage, and you can also use a cable to strap it to a tree, but look at this. This running around the tree is what? An eye catcher. And if somebody sees your camera, they can certainly take it. So I'm going to suggest not using that technique just because it makes your camera vulnerable to anybody just to walk up and take. A second technique then is brackets. They are very popular, especially now that they can tilt forward, back, and left and right, and you can aim it in exact direction you want to cover down a trail or wherever you're trying to put your camera up at. They go on a tree very quickly and come off a tree very quickly. The disadvantage, once again, anybody can walk over and take your camera off the tree very easily. That includes another disadvantage being animals often land on your cameras or climb around on your cameras on a bracket and can move them. And if you don't have that real tight, because I'm going to tell you this in a lot, you'll hear me repeat this over and over. I live in Washington State. I have a ton of bears, and especially if you watch my videos, you know I get a lot of bears. I don't care what bracket you use that's got a ball joint where it goes left and right, up and down. A bear is going to be able to bend it down. So I don't use brackets. They're just not an option here in Washington State. I always use security boxes, and I'm going to tell you why. There's three different reasons. One is, think about the weather here. I get a lot of rain. I don't have all the rain pounding on my camera almost daily when I have my camera in a security box. Two, I like to leave my cameras up during winter when it snows, so I don't have a lot of snow sitting directly on top of my camera. And that's hopefully going to give my cameras a little longer lifespan. Let's talk about also these. You find my camera out in the field, you're going to find a nice lock on my, and chances are you having a key or a way to cut that lock with you is almost not heard of. You're going to have to go back to your vehicle at least, or to a hardware store or some store to purchase the items you need to cut that lock. So that's a big plus. And a lot of people where I put my cameras aren't going to be willing to hike back in just for one camera. Okay, another advantage though, and the number one reason I always use security boxes are bears. I have a lot of bears here in Washington State, and because I have a lot of bears, I simply don't use these other techniques. I always use a security box. Do I still lose cameras each year? Well, every year I usually get a sensor or something, some way a bear will still manage to pop and break a little piece of glass. But usually I can just throw a piece of tape on my camera and it's still good, versus, what they could do if they can get a hold of this camera or this camera where it's really exposed. So that's why I use security boxes, and that's a great tip. I suggest you use them. Now, if you got a camera that doesn't have a security box designed for it, I would suggest you do what I do. I modify my boxes, and I modify a lot of them. That's still more getting a grinder and cutting until it fits. Okay, so my numbers, or the tip I want to point out here is, once again, use a security box for your cameras when you mount them whenever possible. Okay, let's talk about a couple other things here. Now I'm going to get to a really good one I hope you'll like.